It became very clear over the years that there are so many products out there claiming natural, organic, and there's a vastly big difference between those claims and truly certified organic products. So together we felt a real need to educate people. Now, what is really organic? What is really natural? What is certified organic? Biomagnification is a term coined from Rachel Carson's work back in 1962. And what happened was, at a place called Clear Lake in California, it was infested with a gnat, a relative of the mosquito. And the local fishermen complained, so the local authorities decided to spray a chemical, DDT, which is a relative of the organic chlorine DDT. And they sprayed it at 50 million parts to 1. That is, for every 50 million litres or gallons of water, they use 1 litre, 1 gallon of DDT. According to the science of the time, that was sufficient to kill the gnat, but affect nothing else. However, what occurred? Many birds were found dead after each spraying, and they found that actually the birds died from DDT poisoning. And what happened was the plankton in the lake were discovered to have 250 times the concentration of the original spraying. This is what we call biomagnification, or multiple toxicity through the food chain. Okay. Little fish eat those plankton, and in turn larger fish eat them. By the time it got to this larger fish state, the magnification increased 125,000 times. And this is what we call biomagnification through the food chain. And you have to ask, who's at the top of most food chains? Some chemicals, such as PCBs, have now been found to biomagnify up to 25 million times by the time they reach a human. And this is what makes these chemicals so toxic. A good illustration of this is Dr. Americo Mosco's work back in 1974. He wrote a paper equating nuclear fallout to pesticides usage. And how he was able to do that was simply, if you look at a human cell under a microscope and you expose that human cell to radiation, it does one of two things. It mutates, becomes cancerous, or it dies. You do the same thing to a human cell, or that same human cell, and expose it to a pesticide, it also does one of two things. It mutates, becomes cancerous, or it dies. So based on that finding, he was able to calculate the sort of effects synthetic pesticides have on human cells. And back in 1974, the amount of pesticides used was around 250 million kilograms in that year, or 500 million pounds. And that was equivalent, as far as the toxic effects on human cells, to 72,000 atomic bombs. We know now in scientific studies that they have exactly the same effect, with one fundamental difference. And that difference is what we call time. If an atomic bomb was to fall here today, we'd all pay for it today. However, the toxic effects and the exposure to synthetic pesticides may take 10, 20, 30 or 40 years, but the end result is identical. And this is why the organic movement is so important. This is what it's all about.